Okay, so hopefully I won't get rained upon. I wanted to do a quick little video and give you my honest review of owning a 997.2. It's a 2009 Porsche Carrera S. So I kind of look back on this purchase and I was kind of brainwashed or got like a bug up my ass about getting this car, that I needed this car. In hindsight, I really didn't need this car. Once I made the decision to get it, I wanted to get the right one that didn't have an IMS, and then one that wouldn't have bore scoring. So I thought the 997.2 variant was the car for me. The reason I didn't go to the next level up or next model, which is the 991 generation, is because Porsche got bought out by VW, and then they went with an electric steering rack, blah blah blah. So I thought this was kind of like that perfect last analog Porsche owned vehicle. The other ones, the later models, are supposed to be bigger. So what I'm saying is basically I believed the hype, and went ahead and found a car, a low mileage car, spent quite a bit of money on it. I think a lot more than I should have. I'm not saying that I could have, because these were the prices that they were going at, and if you want to get a car that's in good condition with low mileage, you're gonna have to pay a premium for it. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to do that. But since owning the vehicle, there was a couple little things that I think any used car will have. I don't know if the dealer that I bought it from was completely honest with him, but nonetheless, they had little things like the brakes and suspension was too low. So those are all to be expected, not a big deal. The thing that is stressing me out about this car is the whole potential for bore scoring. And again, it just like I was, brainwashed about, my thought that I needed this car. The other thing that's happening is I think I'm getting, more or less freaked out about the possibility of bore scoring. And so once you start researching bore scoring on YouTube, it just starts feeding you more and more stuff about bore scoring, and you kind of have this perception that all these cars have bore scoring. I should turn on this light. I know it's probably not likely, right? And there's probably 80% of the vehicles that are out there without, any issues, and those people aren't posting online or whatever. But nonetheless, it's something that's always in the back of my mind, to the point where I can't just, enjoy the car, or rather I have to take a number of steps to enjoy the car. You can't just get in and go. It's like I can't just take a short drive because I'm concerned that, I want to get that engine all the way up right away and, drive it. So I can't take little short drives because it takes so long to warm up this engine that I feel like by just taking a short little drive, it's not warming up the engine enough. The other thing I noticed recently was the left tailpipe, the driver's tailpipe, seems to have more soot on it than the right. And that's a possible indication of bore scoring. It could be just normal, but I didn't notice it. And I'll feed in a little video clip of it. The other thing, I took a video of the startup, and another indication is whether the left tailpipe has more smoke coming out of it than the other. And without actually viewing that tape yet, I'm not sure. So I'll feed that, or I'll loop that in also. Anyway, so it's 100% my fault in the sense of getting this car, being whatever, blinded about the reasonableness of getting another car. But then now it's like I'm overthinking this whole bore scoring thing, and it's just not allowing me to like just take it out and enjoy it. So if you're thinking about buying a 997.2, these are my recommendations. I think that you should get one that's obviously within your budget. Do your due diligence in trying to figure out whether it has bore scoring or not. There's a number of little different steps. You can do a PPI, but I've said this before. It's pretty expensive to do a proper PPI, and I don't know how many people actually do it. I have a suspicion not a lot of people do it. Everyone says to do it, but not a lot of people do it, because when you get down to it and you're interested in a car, it's up to the owner that says, okay, I'll allow it or not. In my case, the dealer was like, yeah, you can do it, but you need to deposit a $5,000 non-refundable deposit to drive it off the lot. And if it happened to turn out that I don't want to buy the car, I had to forfeit $5,000. So you're kind of always handcuffed into not really doing a PPI if the owner isn't totally cool with it. So there's a bunch of steps that you can do yourself to see if there's any indication, not necessarily for bore scoring, but how well the car has been taken. There's a bunch of videos online for you to check that out. But I will say this: the thrill and the enjoyment of driving this car as is stock, and this car is not necessarily stock. It has Bilstein coilovers that's been lowered, so I think the ride is better than what would be stock. And then I have Pfister exhaust mod. So even with those things, it's not like the enjoyment of driving this car overrides the anxiety that I have or the nervousness I have about bore scoring. And so therefore it's not worth it. Now, there's a little bit of buyer's remorse, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it. I bought the car. It is what it is. And I know that down the road I'll be much happier. I just know that with the different mods that I'll do, and the fact that once I determine whether it doesn't have bore scoring, or at least I'm able to keep it at bay, then I'll enjoy it. But right now, I'm not there. Now, that's assuming I don't have bore scoring and I can keep it at bay. If I do have bore scoring, it'll be such another thing to just bug me to no end. So that's my honest review. The enjoyment of driving this car does not override or exceed the stresses of this car, and especially if you have a relatively good example. Now, so what are my recommendations? And if they're worth anything, you can take it. I would get a 997.1 or a 996, whatever variant that you like, which would be a lot less money. You just have to get over the look of it and the interior. Those are the two things. Everyone talks about the headlights. You can get that, the version of the headlights that look like the turbos. Those are perfectly fine, and the body actually looks better, especially the rear end. But it's the interior. It's the interior that throws me off. When you look at the interior of a 996, generation, it is it's like that cheapy plastic. Things are slimy, sticky, things like that, and that's what throws me off. So you would have to do quite a bit with the interior, and that's why I suggest a 997.1 if you can get one, and then just deal with that engine and whatever IMS and the bore scoring issues. But that, I'm telling you, you're gonna have to deal with anyways with this car, at least the anxiety that's associated with it. And there's enough. Well, I should say this: if you can work on your own vehicles, you certainly can deal with all that stuff on the cheap by doing all the work yourself. So that's what I recommend. Going with a 996 generation, I forget the engine model, but go with that. Deal with those issues properly, or keep them at bay, and then drive the car, really enjoy it, and don't be too worried about it. I still learn from my more or less mistake. Now, I'll be proud if I go to some event or hang out with other people who have a 996, and I'll be like, oh, I got the 997.2, and I'll feel better about it at that time. But yeah, to me it's too much, a little bit too much stress. Now, if I'm able to do the mods that I want to do, which are I want to get some stiffer engine mounts, do a transmission mount stiffening kind of insert. There's an improvement on the shifter linkage that I can do, along with the actual connector, I think, from the cable at the transmission to make that stiffer. I'm planning on changing the steering wheel. There's also a problem with one of my rear shocks. I'm going to get that fixed or rebuilt. So once I dial in the car, and all these efforts are to make the vehicle more enjoyable, more raw, maybe then I'll be like, oh, this is now at the level where the enjoyment of the car exceeds any anxiety that I might have, and it's all worth it. But anyways, I'll post a video on that. But it's been approximately, February? A little over 6 months, I think, since I've owned the car. I haven't put that much miles on it, but I've done relatively quite a bit of work on it. So I'm gonna say that I have some time in the seat, and this is my honest review. I don't deny the fact that I have some issues about how I get to the weeds, or fuck this guy, holy crap.